Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Lili Nishmasim Mirosi Ruspas Mordechai. In honor of the bar mitzvah of Yoel, YoYo, Yoester, Shmooster, Yoey. What, Shmoester? I never heard that one though. We know him as Yoey. We are very proud of you. Love, mommy, daddy, Elisheva, Nechemya, that must be the new guy. Tani, the old guy. Aiden and Naama. Reb Yehuda David, we like to call him Judah. I don't know why. How does this go? I'm not a pro at this. You need a book. Rabbi Isai, we miss Yeshua, Aaron Price. The water, the book, the whole situation. Be'ez Hashem, one day I'll come back to us. You could be any side, no?
Gary,
okay, well, thanks, Gary. Destroyed the Aron Kodesh in the process. Bang, bang. Oh, just the bottom. Okay. So, first of all, we have this. Hello, Rav Eli. Just started following Yeshiurim a few weeks ago. This is a while ago he wrote this, in the beginning. Credit to Avram Meir Farkovich. You gave me a shout out on Daf Chavav, and since then my kids love hearing your good morning Rabbi Isai. This month of Shabbos we discovered you on YouTube. Here are my kids following along, live from Woodman, New York, and one day hopefully in Eretz Yisrael, Baruch V'atzlacha, Jay Nathanson. Here's kids watching the Daf. Kids are Elohim these days. Rabbi Isai, so people are sending in pictures of where in the world do you do daf. It's great. These are nice pictures, but I don't see you. So what's pshat? This is Veheshev Leiv Avos Al Bonim V'Leiv Bonim Al Avoisam. This is from Shmuel Yosef Hochhauser. That's the Rebbe that comes online. You see him on Zoom on Motzei Shabbos. His father, Shmuel is his father. Veheshev Leiv Avos Al Bonim. My Choshev son, or Rav David Hochhauser, Hamoyel Choshev from Yerushalayim got me onto you, and I've been learning with you from our summer vacation here in Bairnsdale, Victoria, on the Gippsland Lakes. Thank you for a clear and concise shir that I can follow and understand with a smile. Keep it up, Yesher Koyach, Shmuel Yosef Hochhauser, Melbourne, Australia. Here's whatever, what is it called again? Barnsdale, Gippsland Lake. But I want to see Reb Shmuel. Next time you send a picture, put yourself in there. Here's another one, very similar. Rabbi Isai, what is this a picture of? I'll tell you, if you don't chap what it is, it's very pashut. This is from Yaakov Greenberg, Clifton, New Jersey, on the plane. Well, it's a Gemara, but we need to see you on the plane, so I can put you in a video or something. We have a minute here. This is from a doctor, a medical student from George Mason University. He wants to remain anonymous. He says, "Thank you for all your work on the Daf Shiurim. I started learning Daf this cycle and joined your shir from Erevin. I really appreciate your charge and energy. I'm not the type to write in or want my email read aloud with my name. So I'd rather you didn't, but I did want to write about one thing. I know there's been some back and forth about the commercializing of the shir. I don't care one way or the other, but one thing I did want to point out. There was one shir a month ago where you mentioned that the donations go to the Daf Yomi Kolel that is part of your new base medrash. Until that point, I had no idea where the money went. And to be honest, it seems strange why Daf Yomi shir, given by someone who b'chazdi Hashem has his own parnasa, needed the money. With that one comment, I understood, but perhaps it might be beneficial to have the clarification on site, and even in the descriptions on YouTube. May Hashem give you back many times over the energy and strength you pour into giving the daf best. I'm not going to say his name. Yishkoyach, Rabbi.
Every day you should say that. Clarify. Every morning.
We have a kollel. We built a building specially designed for Daf Yomi, which isn't finished and wasn't paid off yet. We have 3 people on salary. 3 people on salary. I do not take salary. I don't take money for myself. And any money coming in, if there's $1 million that came in today, there's what to do with it. Because these graphics, there's so much things that we could do to enhance the daf and bring the daf to more people. We do advertising, marketing. There's a lot of zachen. We need $80,000 for Nachman's book. Whatever, there's a whole. It's more than 80. The price just went up. Rabbi, we got to lock him in quickly. Tonight's the lottery. All right, here we go. My sefer coming out soon, Gaiva Delio. We have a shaila. I want to change the name, Gaiva Delio, to Gilu Elio. I think it's a much more Gaividic name. It's a Gilu Elio. It's not Stam Gaiva. Gaiva is one thing. Gilu, he had a Gilu. All right. Also, the refuah shlema of Rachel. Could somebody look up the name of that young woman, Palak? She's mamish in terrible shape. A terrible thing what's going on in that family. They lost 2 people already. She's in Chazi Shema. Here's another one. L'refuah shlema, Rachel Naomi Bas Esther Chana. She gave birth in the 31st week, and she's suffering terribly from corona. She needs a refuah shlema b'karev. Tana Balad. So, yesterday was quite the daf, very technical, 7.5 hours, 8.5 hours. Today it's a lot easier. And Be'ezer Hashem, I mean, if we put ourselves in a mindset of this is negeh to us, we need to know these things, these karbanos, not a foreign thing. We don't want to be a maritzim when we show up to the Beis HaMikdash very soon with our Karban Pesach, with our karbanos. What do? Torah Abanon, Tamid, Koidem lePesach, Pesach Koidem leKtoires. I have to find my thing. Hold on a second. Today we got blue. Okay, so here we go. This is the order. You have a Tamid, and this is the afternoon one. There's 2 Tmidim, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. We're talking about the afternoon. The last thing that you bring in the Beis HaMikdash is a Tamid. What is going on here? The numbers grew somehow. This is
6 verse 6.
We gotta be careful. Tamid, huh? Oh, there's people with. That's right. Nachman is no. But the rule is 5. The rule is 5. We have to stick to the rules. Tamid, it doesn't matter. That's in the future. By the way, once this rule comes off, once this lockdown comes off, then anybody that has antibodies or a week or 2 after the second vaccination is welcome to come to the Beis Medrash. Tamid, then comes Karban Pesach. Okay, we'll shmooze about it, Menachem. I know, there was a discussion. I spoke to Avi Factor, Dr. Avi Factor. Does the vaccination help? Does it count? Not count? Could you carry it? It's still a debate in the States. Tamid, then comes Karban Pesach, then comes Ketores. There's 2 Ketores. The Ketores in the afternoon comes after the Karban Pesach. So Pesach is the exception to the rule. That's the only carbon that comes after the Tamid. As we said yesterday, Tamid, then Pesach. But today we're introducing the Ketores comes after that, and after that comes the Neiros. Ketores, real quickly. So, this is the Beis HaMikdash. This is where you shecht all the karbanos. This is the Mizbeach. This is the Heichal. Inside the Heichal, you have the Mizbeach Hazav. Right over here, this golden thing, that's where you put the Ketores on. Right over here is the Menorah. Over here is the Shulchan Apanim. So this is in the Heichal. Nobody sees it. Nobody goes there. The Ketores every day. So, Tamid, Kodim lePesach. Pesach, Kodim leKetores. Ketores, Kodim leNeiros. So this is the first Brisa, this is the order. Yu'uchar dover shenema boy ba'erev. What's the svara? Daf Amud Aleph. It makes a lot of sense. Something that says, by Pesach, it says ba'erev and bein ha'arbaim. So, here's the psukim. Here are the psukim. Shon Tizbach Pesach ba'erev, in the evening. And B'shach Yizikol Gad Yisrael bein ha'arbaim. This is in Dvarim, this is in Shmooze. So it says ba'erev and bein ha'arbaim. L'davar shleinem boy ba'erev elo bein ha'arbaim belvad. So the Tamid only says once ba'erev, bein ha'arbaim, but it doesn't say ba'erev. So therefore, Karban Pesach beats it out and is later into the evening. Yihachi asked the Gemara, Ketores v'neiros nami nigdemu lePesach. So we have to remember this question because the Gemara is going to use this question. In other words, Ketores and neiros also yuchad davar shenemer by ba'erev ubein ha'arbaim l'davar shenemer by bein ha'arbaim. Where's this? Bein ha'arbaim. So since it says bein ha'arbaim only once, so therefore Ketores and Neiros. Nami Nignu Pesach. So Korban Pesach should come before. In the list, Ketores and Neiros are at the end. But Ketores and Neiros only have once. Bein Arbaim. Ba'alois Aaron is Neiros. Bein Arbaim. Yaktireno is talking about Ketores, Neiros. And it says only once, Bein Arbaim. So therefore, according to your logic, Ketores and Neiros should be before Pesach, because Pesach has two things, Bo'erev and Bein Arbaim. Shani Hasam, candles and Ketores are different, especially candles. The Mid Rachmana Oisai. Where are we? Here we go. Yaroich Oisai Aaron Ovanov, Me'erev Ad Boiker, Oisai. Special miot, Desanya. Me'erev Ve'ad Boiker. Ten lo midasa shtehei doilekes me'erev ad boiker. Me'erev ad boiker. These words come to teach us that when you pour in the oil into the menorah, there has to be that much oil that it can light me'erev from the evening when you light it till the morning. How much is that? A chatzi lug. So I saw a very interesting Pri Megadim. That's a very nice kasha. You know the famous Beis Yosef kasha on Chanukah. Why is Chanukah 8 days? They found enough oil for 1 day. So the nace was only 7 days. So how many answers are there on that question? There used to be 100, and now there's a sefer, I think it's 300 answers. Anyways, one of the main famous answers is that they took the oil that they found for 1 day, and they divided it up for 8 days. So every day got 1/8 of that bottle. So that was a tremendous nace. On the first day also, it lasted, the 1/8 lasted for the whole night. Frek the Pri Megadim, but it says over here that it says in the pasuk me'erev ad boiker that you must put into the menorah enough oil that lasts from the evening to the morning, which is a chatzi lug. So how could you divvy it up? How could you take a small amount? And what are you going to say? That they knew they didn't have enough. But lechatchila, the Torah says that's how much you have to do it. And if you don't do it, you're not yoytze at all. So what's the point of doing it? You might as well do one night, be yoytze that one night, and Shema Yisrael. No. How did they think they're going to be yoytze? How do they think they're going to be yoytze at all if it's not enough?
You can't make a bracha.
Can't do anything. Not only that, put it all in. No, put it all in. Put it all in, and at least you're yoytze 1 day. Why should you not be yoytze 8 days when you can be yoytze 1 full day and 7 days you won't have? No, but I'm saying whatever you have. Today you have to think about today. Today's daf. Hayoim. What do we have? Says the Shevet HaLevi, no, you can't make a bracha if it's not going to. Fine, it's a different thing. Says the Shevet HaLevi, from here you see, this is not the base, Shevet HaLevi, Revozna, that it's not ma'akiv. Okay, Me'erev HaBoiker, that's what he wants to tell. It's not ma'akiv. Davar acher, in other words, another pshat, not another pshat in the pasuk, but another part of the pasuk. We just discussed this pasuk. Me'erev HaBoiker. Now there's another word here called oisai. There's two things in this pasuk going on here. There's only one avodah that goes from evening to the morning, and nothing else goes after that. And that's why on the list, Neiros is all the way at the end. Korban Pesach cannot be after the Neiros. Why? Because it says, Omakro, my time Omakro, Yarach Oisai, Aaron Ovodam Erev Ad Boiker. This is it. Right over here, the Oisai teaches me that it's the Neiros, the menorah, that is the last thing that's done in the Beis Hamikdash, and that lasts us from Me'erev Ad Boiker, and Dovachar Me'erev Ad Boiker can't be the Korban Pesach. Ve'iskish, K'tayris L'Neiros. Now, once we see this pasuk right over here, Ubahalois Haroinis HaNeiros, and then it says at the end of the pasuk, K'tayris. So now I have a hekesh between Neiros and K'tayris. And just like Neiros are the last thing, so too K'tayris is the last thing. In other words, Korban Pesach cannot come after K'tayris as well. Even though the pasuk Oisai is talking about Neiros, but since Neiros and K'tayris are in the same pasuk, they are equal when it comes to this. Says the Gemara, the Tani Kikushyon. In fact, there's a brisa that says like the Hava, meaning like the question that K'tayris and Neiros should be before Korban Pesach. Why? Because K'tayris and Neiros only have Bein HaArbaim, whereas Pesach says Bo'erev and Bein HaArbaim, and that taught us that's why Pesach is after a Tamid. So Pesach should be after K'tayris. Tani kikushion. Tamid koydem lektoris, ktoris kodemis lenerois. So in fact, here we go. According to this brayso, it's very different. Tamid is always first. In terms of, Tamid is always last. But in terms of this list, Tamid is first. Now, instead of having Korban Pesach right after Tamid, we switch it up according to this brayso. In fact, Ktoris and Nerois come before the Korban Pesach. Why? Because by Korban Pesach it says two psukim, like the top line in Amud Aleph. Ba'erev and Ben Arbaim versus just Ben Arbaim. And therefore it teaches me that Korban Pesach is last. Tama Kodem Ktoris, Ktoris Kodemis Nerois, Nerois Kodemis Pesach. Yuchar Dover Shadema by Ba'erev u'Ben Arbaim. Korban Pesach that has both words, Ba'erev and Ben Arbaim. The Dover Shadema by Elo Ben Arbaim Belvad. Nerois and Ktoris only have the Ben Arbaim. V'Ksiv Oisai. But the first brayso learned from the word Oisai that Nerois and Ktoris are last. Says the Gemara, no, this brayso teaches us something completely different. Hi, V'Ksiv Oisai. Hi Oisai Mibar Le'Lemuti Avoida Shebifnim. We're talking about inside. What's inside? Where does the Korban Pesach go? Outside. This is outside of the Heichal. This building is the Heichal. Ktoris, Nerois are inside. So Memela, if Ktoris and Nerois are inside, it makes sense to learn the inner things and not to talk about a Korban Pesach. So I'm going to learn from the word Oisai to include not only Nerois that are inside, but Ktoris inside, and not Korban Pesach that's outside. So Kedai Dechamina. Which is yaktireno means k'tayres. Eimo nadlik nerois bereisha v'hodar nakti k'tayres. Here, if I'm just reading this pasuk, it says nerois first. So I would say, what comes first? Look, uba'alois aroid es ha-nerois. First come the menorah. Ben arbaim yaktireno k'tayres, and afterwards I do k'tayres. No, that's not what it is. The word Oisai comes to teach us. So why do I need the words Ben Arbaim Yaktireno? Hachika Amar Rachmana Bi'edan the madlikus nerois tehei mekatro k'tayres. The what? First comes the k'tayres, then comes the nerois. I wouldn't know that. In the Pashup Pshat in the Pasuk, his Nerois comes first. No, as I'm lighting the candles, I already have to have the Ktoris going. I saw a Hasidic Avart from the Yechi Yosef. I don't know who that is. I didn't look it up. No. He's a Chashav Rebbe, I'm sure. He says very nice. I'm into the Rebbe stuff these days. I'm doing tshuva. I'm saying more Hasidic Avart than Groz, so you can't have tinus on me. He says that the Ktoris comes to be mechaper on Lashon Hara. Right? That we know. We learned. It's Gemara. Ktoris comes to be mechaper Lashon Hara. When a person talks Lashon Hara, then his mouth becomes defiled. It becomes tamei from the Lashon Hara. And it's difficult to learn Torah. Your Torah doesn't have the same value. So therefore, he says, you have to first do kaparas haktoras, get rid of the Lashon Hara. And then comes the Nerois. The Nerois resemble Torah. What's the pasuk? Kiner Torah, whatever the pasuk. No, Kiner. Oh, that's right. Kiner mitzvah Torah. Kiner mitzvah Torah. Yes, the Torah. Very good. I was just thinking you could do a shini ma'isa because it's Hasidic and I got to make it Litvish shtickle. The Chavetz Chaim says the same thing in regard to we say every single morning Elikai nitzar l'shoini meira usvasai medaber mirma. So first we're asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, keep our mouth, because as the Chavetz Chaim says, the person that talks Lashon Hara, Oiva Avoy, what happens to his Torah, and only afterwards, Psach libi b'soyer secha. Then, once my mouth is clean, Psach libi b'soyer secha. Okay, that's B'shinu Ma'is. Now, yesterday I was saying about the Hasidim who daven mincha ktana all year round, but Erev Pesach, Shabbos, Erev Pesach, they'll daven mincha gdoila. And here's another one, interesting, that according to everybody, Nerois goes after Tamid. If you look over here, Nerois, first comes Tamid, then Nerois. First comes Tamid, then Nerois. But Nerois is all the way afterwards. Therefore, that's one of the reasons why we're very makbid to daven mincha before Adlakas Nerois, especially like Erev Shabbos, Chanukah Erev Shabbos. we run to shul, we daven mincha, then we come home and we don't light candles and then go to shul daven mincha. Why? This is one of the reasons. Because Neiros comes after the tamid, which is be'etzem mincha. I mean, the Pri Megadim says that the reason why we do it is because it's a stira. You can't say it's nighttime and I'm lighting candles and then daven mincha. Mincha is before that. Okay, fine. Zog the Gemara. Yeah. Oh, you're back? Time out, you're back? Wow, that was a quick trip. Welcome back. No. Yes. Shock.
How does the other Mandala know that Neres comes before the Neres? Pasuk Shad and Pasuk is Neres first. The Idat Mandala.
I don't know. I have to think about it. I don't know. Oisai, we have two limudim there. Oisai, and how does he know it's first? And you're saying that according to everybody it has to be first? According to this Vayichi Yosef, you mean? It has to be according to everybody here? The what?
Because it's a Hekesh. And because it's a Hekesh, so first comes...
Yeah, but if you have the Hekesh, so why does the other Mandama need it? I don't know. I hear. By the way, is Michael Cohen off of Shiva yet or not? Okay. If anybody sees him, let me know. Tani Rabbanan. The Aidan, Tani Rabbanan. So now we're switching gears. We're going to the Tamid Shel Shachar, the morning Tamid. Nothing, it's a sandwich. What? What did you say? I didn't hear. Still sitting Shiva. Okay. No, because somebody wrote in an email, I didn't realize that his father is very famous and very chashuv. He was the Mashgiach in Telz, Cleveland, for many years. He's a big Talmud Chacham. He said, his father's nifta. I didn't realize that he's, and I had the schus, and he put him once on Zoom, and we had a Shmooze with him from the hospital, and I didn't realize who I was talking to. Okay. I just wanted to mention that. Somebody wrote a whole long email to explain to me who he was. So there's a tamid in the morning, carbon tamid. You bring a carbon oila, which is the tamid, every single day in the morning, and in the evening it's a sandwich. Nothing comes before it, nothing comes after it. The only thing that comes before the tamid in the morning is the k'tairis. Just like the k'tairis, not just like, but we just said k'tairis is after the tamid in the evening, and the k'tairis is before the tamid in the morning. Morning, in other words, it's before anything else. Since it says it twice. 2 times in the morning. By the Talmud only says boiker once. So now we're going to go into a little bit what we said, add a little bit. After the Talmud in the evening, there's nothing that goes after that. Elok Teiris, which we said. V'neiris, which we said. Pesach, which we discussed. And here's a new one. Umechusar Kippurim be'erev haPesach. So if you recall, Mechusar Kippurim is a famous concept in Shas, but we just had in the beginning of the Sechta. If you test that whole sugya, unbelievable sugya, Tum, Taira, Mechusar Kippurim. And that is a person, let's call it a Mitzvah, because the Gemara discusses a Mitzvah. Somebody who has to grow his hair long, refrain from wine, then he doesn't want to be a mitzvah anymore, he has to go to the mikvah, there's a whole process. Goes to the mikvah, and then that evening, he's a tful yoim, but he's really mechusar kippurim. In other words, that evening, he could eat truma, but he still can't eat, even after Erev Shemesh, he can't eat kachim. Now, what's a carbon Pesach? Carbon Pesach is a carbon, it's kachim, so he can't eat it because he's mechusar kippurim. He must bring his karbanos the following day. So until he brings his karbanos, he can't eat the carbon Pesach. So now what happened was, so this guy did everything he needed to do. He went to the mikvah and he waited for the nightfall. But the next day he couldn't make it. He had corona. He couldn't make it to bring his karbanos. So now he cannot eat the carbon Pesach. So it says that even though I brought the tamid, I could still bring his tful yom. I could still bring this carbon right over here. This is mechusar kippurim, in order so that he should be able to eat his carbon Pesach. So it's another carbon that you're allowed to bring after a tamid. This is the end of the line, right here, tamid. There's nothing else after tamid. Only carbon pesach, only k'taris and eres. But there's one more thing. If the guy forgot to bring his carbon after he went to the mikvah because he's a mitzayra, so then we allow him after the tamid to bring his carbon so that he could eat his pesach. Shetoivel shenis. Another thing he must do is go to the mikvah a second time. And then he eats the carbon pesach. Nothing to do with the carbon pesach. It's not because he needs to eat the pesach that he could bring a carbon after he brought the tamid. Anytime he has to bring a carbon, let's say he brings a chatas, he did an avera, he was over chil Shabbos b'shaygig, so he brings a carbon chatas to the mizbeach. And so in order for him to eat it, he needs to go to the mikvah because he's mechusar kippurim, he happens to be a mitzayra. So he goes to the mikvah, he brings his carbon, goes to the mikvah, and then he eats, instead of carbon pesach, insert over here chatas, let's say. It's not dafka a carbon pesach. Why? Because he has a mitzvah to eat from the chatas. Zog the Gemara. Rabbi Shmuel ben Eish Rabbi Yechim ben Rega Omer Af Mechusar Kippurim Shayim Esashana Shatoy V'Oichel Kachim Le'erev. That's the Gemara, very simple. Bishlam Tani that the only exception to the rule is somebody that's bringing a carbon pesach and he didn't bring his carbon for Mechusar Kippurim. Yavaya say the Pesach sheyesh beikares. There's a reason why, because Pesach is very chamor. There's an isur kares over here. You get kares. Not eating it, you get kares. Not bringing it, you get kares. V'yidcha say the hashlama she'ein beikares. As we learned yesterday, all the way at the end of the daf, it says in the pasuk, Victor aleh chelvei hashlamim. Hashlamim, we learned, means lashon shalem, that the last thing that we bring during the day, in terms of korbanos, is a tamid. Hashlem, shalem, hashlama. So there's a mitzvah that tamid should be the last. If you bring something after tamid, you're over. So ask the Gemara, how could I bring a carbon for Mechusar Kippurim after the tamid? I'm being over an aveira. Now, if I have a tremendous aveira called kares, so I understand, I could break one aveira to do the other. Yavi asay, one asay, sheyesh bekares, vidcha asay da hashlama. There's a mitzvah that tamid should be last, but the mitzvah of carbon is much more severe because if I don't do it, I'll get kares. Let me bring that. But what's my excuse to bring another carbon called Mechusar Kippurim so I could eat my chatas, which is only an asay. So it's one against one. It's an asay and asay. It doesn't have kares in it. Why is one stronger than the other? We're talking about the mitzvah. One of the things he brings a chatas oif, he brings a oila, and he brings a asham. 3 things. So we're talking about the bird of a mitzvah. There's no aveira. There's no asay. There's no problem in hashlama. Hashlama means carbon must be the last thing. It is the last thing. The only thing this guy didn't bring is a bird. But you're not putting it on the mizbeach. You're going to do malika with your thumb. It's going to bleed a little bit. And you're going to sprinkle it on the mizbeach. And then you're going to take the bird and toss it next to the mizbeach. There's a hole over there. You throw it in there. But you're not putting it on the mizbeach, so you're not over anything. No, we're talking about a gezunta animal. Again, another answer. You're not burning that carbon, this chatas, this giant chatas, a whole cow. You're putting it on top of the mizbeach. Now, you put it on top of the mizbeach, you're not over anything. There's no more lina once it's on the mizbeach. The mizbeach takes away your aveira of lina. Yeah. And then, we're going to get there exactly. So that's it. Malo, melina, you take it, put it on top of the mizbeach. So you weren't over anything in terms of ashlama. The last thing that you were makriv, that you burnt on the mizbeach is a tamid, and everything's great. Ask the Gemara, Voika Asham. The Mitzayra also has to bring an Asham. And Rashi points out, what do you do with the Asham? Interesting halacha. You take from its blood and you put it on its thumb and on its big toe. Take the blood, put it on the Mitzayra's thumb and its big toe, which means that it's like Zrika. Zrika, as we'll see, is the most important, basically, that's the finale, that's what gives a person a kapara. The zrika on the mizbeach, throwing, sprinkling blood on the mizbeach, or very sprinkling on his thumb. What does that mean? That it's part of the kapara. It's very essential to the whole mitzvah thing. Bishlam el Rav Papa, Hanu de Malinla. According to Rav Papa, everything is great. That's why we have to say he puts the animal on top of the mizbeach. El Rav Chizda, Ma'ikil Meimar. Says Gemara, Amri Shekarav Hashamai. So first, we're talking about a case where they took the asham, they threw it on the mizbeach. Everything is good. And afterwards, he brings the bird, which is after the carbon tamid. As the Gemara of Eikayla, the mitzvah has another carbon called the Oyla. And if you say that the Oyla is not part of the kapara, we just proved that asham is part of the kapara because you put it on the finger. But maybe the Oyla is not. You have to bring the Oyla, but it's not part of the mitzvah's kapara. That we know that the chatos and the asham of the mitzvah are essential and they're ma'akev. If you don't bring it, it doesn't have a kapara. All three are ma'akev. So you say the same answer you said before on the asham. We're talking about a situation that the oil went on and the asham went on and not the chatos. That can't be. Because the order is, first goes the chatos, then goes the oil. So if the oil was already on the mizbeach, then the chatos was already on the mizbeach. We're saying a situation where the chatos didn't get on yet. And you don't have to put it on. Why? Because you're not putting on the chatas, you're throwing it away. But the oila, the chatas comes before an oila. So you can't say that the oila wasn't burnt yet. But it has to be first. It already says in the pasuk, that the oila is the second in line. First comes the chatas, then comes the oila. Ella zibona av l'kol hachatois. Now, the first pasuk is talking about carbon oil v'yared. If a person makes a shvu as bitui, what comes first? Chatas comes first. Now, how do I know to take that idea and bring it to our sugya? By mitzvah, chatas comes first because it's a binyan av. It's one of the shalish midras, right? It's bona binyan av. I learned from this idea of carbon oil v'yared. Carbon oil v'yared means, if you weren't with us in Zvachim, it means it depends how wealthy you are. You bring different carbon. Wealthier brings an animal, less wealthy. Let's say a woman gives birth, she brings an animal, but if she doesn't have money, she'll bring one of her karbanos, she'll bring a bird. So in the carbon oil, which has to do, which was bitui, if you say, I'm going to jump to the moon, and that never happens, then you have to bring a carbon oil. But over there it says that chatas comes before oil. So I take that idea and bring it to the whole Torah. L'chayra. I should bring it by us also. Mitzvah, the chatas come first. Therefore, I have a big problem. What do I do with this oil? What happened to the oil? The oil does have to go on the mizbeach. I can't answer, I take the oil and throw it in the garbage, or throw it in that pile where the chatas goes, because the oil has to go on. And if I was makriv the oil first, that means the chatas is already gone. The chatas was first, before that. So I don't have a chatas. What's going on here? Says Gemara, imagine, you have a giant animal, which is a chatas, which is a oila, and you have a tiny little bird, a little pigeon. You would think, what's more chashav? The behema. No. The chatas bird is, the akrava goes before the animal. Omar Rava, shani oilas mitzayra. Well, there's an exception to the rule, says Rava. The oilas mitzayra goes before the chatas mitzayra. The Rahman Omar, returning to Daf Nun Amud Beis, vehelo hakoines ha'oila, shehelo kfar, that happened already. We just turned to Daf Nun Amud Beis, sponsored by Gedalia Fenster, L'Refuah Shleimo, V'Rechmiel, Daniel, Ben Tova, Basho. Omar, Le'Rav Shemen, Bar Abba, Le'Rav Papa. So Rav Papa just said, you take the animal and put it on top of the mizbeach, but you're not makriv it, right? What do you do with it? It just sits there. You don't put it into the fire, because if you put it into the fire, that means that I did something after the carbon tamid. I don't want to do anything after the carbon tamid, but I don't want to be over on lina. It's the raisa to just let an animal sit on the floor, but if I put it on the mizbeach, I'm okay. Says the Gemara, you ask him a question. You're doing something that's going to bring the kohanim to do an avera. They're going to go, what's happening? Then after everything is done, now the cleanup crew comes, and they come at night. Once you do the zrika, everything is over. You get all the kaparas in, all the chatos, they did the zrika. Then you have a bunch of carcasses all over the floor. Then the crew comes, takes these cars. After the Talmud is already nishchat, I can bring all my korbanas back on the mizbeach and burn them. Why? There's already zrika. Everything happened already before the Talmud. Talmud happened, then let's clean up, let's throw it. Come the kohanim, they're starting to throw things into the fire. All of a sudden they see something laying on the side. Pick it up, toss it into the fire. They don't know that this carbon sitting over here doesn't have a tag on it that says, hey, don't touch till tomorrow. This thing happened after the Talmud. You're not allowed to throw it into the fire. It's going to be a big takal. Says the Gemara, they're going to think it's part of the daytime korbanos and they'll throw it into the fire. Don't worry about the kohanim. They're very, very careful. So you know, I'm a pilot and I love aviation. So back in the day, even today, if you watch ever, I don't know if you, something called the aircraft carrier. Islam brought me, because I'm a shugal davar echad. On the aircraft carrier, you have 6,000 sailors, and their job is to shoot off these planes, these F-16s and all these planes off the runway. So if you look at it, you'll see there's guys in the yellow jackets, guys in the blue jackets, and the green jackets. The guys in the yellow jackets direct traffic. The guys in blue jackets, they're in charge of the arrestor cables that catch the planes as they come in. It's a whole gazah. So imagine you say, oh, the guy's going to make a mistake. He's going to forget the cable, and the F-16 that's worth $30 million is going to go into the ocean. No, it doesn't happen. That never happens. These guys are zrizim. Everybody has a job. Everybody knows exactly this, that. That's the Beis HaMikdash. Lahavdil, $1 million. Everybody has a job. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody has their jacket, the yellow, the blues. This guy brings in the carbonas. So this guy, the carbon is on top over there, not going into the fire. The kohen, the guys beforehand say, listen. The guys before say, by the way, on the right side, there's a carbon. Don't touch it. That's the guy that brought it after the Talmud. It has to stay. No problem. Otherwise, you have a $30 million mistake. You can't have it. It's not like in a regular, it's time you walk into a place and the guy, I made a mistake. There's no such thing. Kohanim, Zrizimim, they know what they're doing. Everybody's on the ball over there. What?
Is that a similar number that's on the side?
I guess there's a lot of things on the side. Schlep it off. I don't know. Obviously, from the Gemara's question, it wasn't such a simon. It's not like, it's on a special shelf. This shelf goes there. Things were laying around. That's how it worked. Yeah, it was we're not really, no, not really talking about Erev Pesach. Talking about a regular day that the Mitzvah had to bring his carbon, Chutz Kippurim. Yeah, carbon Pesach, yeah, you're right. Big balagan over there, big balagan. Says the Gemara, so the Gemara is asking a question like this. Very, very interesting halacha. If you look, Rav Eisvish sent me back in the day, just a few weeks ago, but we're going to have, this right over here is a piece of chaylev. Where does this go? This is Emurim, this is part of the Emurim. This thing goes on the Mizbeach. So, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't take away from our steaks. The Mizbeach is happy with this stuff, this tremendous amount of fat that we can't eat. Emurim goes on the Mizbeach. Part, chaylev, here. There's a good picture of what Emurim looks like. Now, if the Emurim don't go on the Mizbeach, the Kohen can't eat his portion of the carbon. The Kohen can't eat his portion of the carbon, the Yisrael doesn't have a kapara. It's one chain. It's catch-22. So if this doesn't go on, then the Kohen can't eat. The Kohen can't eat, the Yisrael didn't have a kapara, so what's going on here? You didn't get anything. He needs to have the kapara, he wants to eat his carbon Pesach. If he doesn't have a kapara, he doesn't have to eat a carbon Pesach. It's a whole thing. So I need to put this on the Mizbeach, then the Kohen could eat his steak. The Kohen eats his steak, the Yisrael gets his kapara, the Yisrael could eat his carbon Pesach. This doesn't go on, it messes up the whole chain of events. Says the Gemara, then the Kohanim can't eat. The Sanya, they get their portion. The breast and the thigh. Maybe they could eat it beforehand. I want to eat, I'm hungry. First, he has to put the chaylev, this guy right over here. But only afterwards they could eat. Listen to this. This is a yisoid in all of Shas. As long as the kohen doesn't eat his portion, bailim loy miskapri. The Yisrael doesn't get a kapara. I got an email from a very choshev Talmid Chacham that watches the shir, and he's a kohen, and he says, I'm reading, I'm a kohen. Therefore, this is one of my favorite Gemaras in Shas. I am eating, and you have a kapara. And then he says, some kohanim take it even further. Like by Kiddush, they eat, they're eating, and he says it's a real kapara for everyone that is sitting nearby. Azay zok the kohen. All right, zok the Gemara. I saw also a very nice, also in Hasidic Sefer, but we're not going to get into it, that basically, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you don't have the right kavanah or whatever, so I'm just saying the gist of it. He says beautiful. I'm not doing it justice, that's why I'm not saying it 100%, but basically he was saying that if you don't do the right thing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to make it in a certain way that your kohen won't be able to eat. That's why your kohen can't eat. And since your kohen can't eat, therefore you don't have the kapar, you're all totally zebizeh.
You do it better, we eat 8 times as a Kohen's food.
Who? Eitan. I hear, because he was the chef in your house. I got it. This is not a problem. We're just going to the Mishnah. So from here you see, the kohen are going to eat asher kupar behem. Amalei. Thank you, Nachman. We're going to get a pace now from Nachman Seltzer. If I slow down, he'll go ahead. Amalei. Kivin doleyev shar. Asom kimi shenitmu oy shavdu. You know what? What happens to the meat that gets tummy? Some guy walks over to the basar after shechted, touches it, he makes it tummy. Does the bailam has a kapara? The whole chain of events didn't happen. This is a yotzim in a klal. It's not his fault. So now, this meat that cannot have a kapara, you can't put it on because it's night. So we'll pretend, halachically, that it got lost, or somebody that was tummy touched it, and memela, they'll have a kapara anyway. The sanya. What happens if it gets lost? Or, tamei, so what? The kohen doesn't get his breast and thigh? Regardless, they always get it. Rav Kahana had a contradiction. The ksiv, lo yolon chelev chagi ad boiker. A lot of Rishonim learn, it's talking about the chagiga. So what does it say? You shouldn't let the chelev of the chagiga last until the morning. So what's the simple pshat in pasuk? Till the morning. But 3 in the morning, I could put it on the mizbeach. That's not a problem. You just make sure the sun doesn't come up. But you can leave it overnight, the entire night. But it says, we just learned that the carbon tamid is the last thing. So you cannot bring this onto the mizbeach at 3 in the morning. The last thing is the tamid. So how can you bring this on 3 in the morning? Tamid was at 6 o'clock at night, or whatever we said. 8.5 hours after daybreak. How did this get onto the mizbeach at 3? What's the answer? Rabbi Sai. Very simple answer. No? So let's see. You guys don't know, so we'll see in the Gemara. Well, everything goes kulon. Hashli means it has to be the last. What's going on? As we said before. Zrika is what counts. They did zrika to this mother animal. The only thing that didn't happen was they didn't put this on the mizbeach. But once zrika happened, that's it. This is a kapara. Now I could put it on the mizbeach all night long to 3 o'clock in the morning. This has nothing to do with the tamid. Tamid just tells me that I can't do the avodah, I can't do zrika after the tamid. But the zrika was before the tamid. Once the zrika is before the tamid, then I could put this on the mizbeach afterwards. La rami lay Rav Safra l'Rav. I don't know. I guess my computer's gone. I don't see anybody. Rav Safra l'Rav. I only see myself. Rav Safra l'Rav. Ksiv lo yolim la boiker zevach chag haPesach. Oh. You cannot leave the emurim again. This stuff, the whole night. La boiker lo yolin, hakolalai lo yolin. What's going on here? What's kolalayla? When's the laila for Korban Pesach? When do you shech the Korban Pesach? Think about it. Erev Pesach you shecht it. What's the laila? Leila Seder. Yontif. Could I put this on the mizbeach on Yontif for a carbon that I shechted in a weekday? The answer is no. So why does it say you could put it on the mizbeach at night? When I bring the oil on Shabbos, B'Shabbatoi, then I could be makriv it. V'lo yoilas chol b'Shabbos. I cannot take a oilo that I shechted on Friday and put it on the mizbeach Friday night on Shabbos. V'lo yoilas chol b'yontev. I can't take a carbon Pesach that I shechted on Friday or on a Thursday and bring it on Leila Seder. Amalek Faramin Halei Rav Abba Bar Chiel Rav. Oh, that's an old question. V'shonelei, and he answered, one particular case, our year, that Shabbos falls out on Erev Pesach. When did I shech the carbon? On Shabbos. Oh, it's a Shabbos carbon. It's a special Shabbos carbon. Shabbos carbon I could bring on the Mizbeach on a Yontif. That's not included in the pasuk. This is an exception to the rule. The Chelvei Shabbos Krevim B'Yontif. Omar Lei. Mishum the Chelvei Shabbos Krevim B'Yontif. Ana Neku V'Nemelei. Dai Krob Arba'as Shchalis B'Shabbos U'Chsiv. Are you kidding me? You're taking this pasuk that you have to bring lo Yoel la boiker zeva chag Pesach, a whole pasuk. Oh, you know this pasuk is only talking about one situation in 2021 where Pesach falls out, Erev Pesach falls out on a Shabbos. That's what the pasuk is talking about. What? Where does it say it in the pasuk b'chlal? How do you say such a thing? It's mamish tchak. You know what the answer is? We have no choice. There's a contradiction here. You cannot bring chaylev onto the mizbeach on Yontiv when you shechted on an erev on a non-Yontiv day. The only answer is that the erev Yontiv was a Shabbos, and therefore I'm able to bring it onto the mizbeach. And this whole passage that says you can bring it on the mizbeach all night long, meaning Leila Seder, is only one situation where erev Pesach was a Shabbos. Ein chanami. It's a big tchak, but we have to say the tchak, otherwise we have a major issue. Have a wonderful day. Shir Amalois, Mimamakim Chesicha Adonai. Adonai Shema B'Koili. Shmoyer Adonai Yamoid. Chas Tichol Lemanti V'Goy. Yisad Adonai Gizan Ashim V'Chol. Shad Adonai Shemun Abayke Shemun Abayke. No, Menachem Ateh called me yesterday on Zoom. He said, Rebelli. Like, what are you doing? Hello? These guys from New York want to call me that. I can't fight with everybody. But you? What?
Eli, may I make a proposition that if people call you red, it's better for the nation. Even if it's not for you, it's better for the whole MDY family.
There's a lot of excuses. There's a lot of excuses why people do certain things. We could come up with a lot of stuff. It's also better for the nation if I walk around with a big sign on my back that says Harav Hagoyno Otzum Hanoyer Va'adir. So I should do that. There's certain things you gotta put your foot down. You gotta say Atkan. Exactly. It's better for the nation. It's better for the nation. I go with an up hat and a frock. Huh?
By the way, Heina, I saw today on the calendar, today was the Shmooze ben Chaim